These are a couple of points that I come across time and time again in discussing theology and the validity of the concept of the existence of God with the strong atheist. We have enough scientific, that being empirical, reproducible, and can put your hands on it evidence to disprove the entire book of Genesis. Science is continually pressing forward in the process of filling in the gaps in our knowledge. The things that we attribute to God are simply things that we haven't developed a means to measure yet. The Bible is an odious document designed to deceive and enslave the mind. The Bible is neither historically accurate nor objective. Do you feel silly yet? Here's the problem. The Abrahamic faiths, absolutely, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam operate under a system of a priesthood of believers. This is possible because in this ideology and in this general system of thought, faith and personal experience, in particular the experiential component of relationship, are held to be of higher personal value and personal revelatory value than general knowledge. The authority of the expert is somewhat limited, it cannot be used to supersede the spiritual or religious experience of the individual. This means that the individual has some authority to speak as an individual, addressing the entire body of knowledge, including the experts. This is not the case when one purports that their beliefs are supported by science. Even less the case when one purports that their beliefs are supported by logic. You see, when a person purports that their ideas are supported by and derive authority from an external verifiable source, to be more particular, a universal appeal to reason in a particular mode of reason, and when we're talking about science and logic, we absolutely are talking about specific modes of reason, then their authority is exclusively derived from the accuracy with which they operate within the confines of these disciplines. While the concept certainly wasn't originally drafted for this application, one can turn to the Lockean notion of sovereignty to come to an idea as to the applicability of science and logic. You see, the idea is that the exchange for living under or operating within the confines of a certain bounds of rules is that one has both the assurance that so long as the law is applied to them, it is to be applied consistently, and to be applied to those with whom they interact. In this way, the price and the prize is one and the same. This applies to logic in particular, and scientific authority as well. Rather than spending any more time on the idea that operating within the confines of logic and or scientific reasoning allows one's points to be addressed within those confines, let's set to it. We have enough scientific evidence to disprove Genesis. Disprove it as what? According to what? Using what criteria for proof? Using what methodologies to achieve that proof? This is a very common error, something that I run into a lot. Something that I run into so frequently that I have to wonder why I keep running into it. Prove. What? How? Differing contexts have different methodologies, mechanisms, and criteria for application of the word proof. Are we asking for a scientific proof? Are we asking for an ontological proof? A teleological proof? An epistemological proof? A logical proof? Are we asking for an empirical proof? More often than not, that is the context in which the word is being used. At least those are the implications that the word carries. The problem is, well, first and foremost, of the proofs listed, empiricism provides the least verifiable criteria for application of the term proof? Certainly. The verification principle and positivism do give us criteria for determining that which can be meaningfully said within those confines. Criteria which themselves are illogical and ultimately arbitrary impositions on the process of reason, but that's another day, another story. If we are asking for an empirical proof, all right, we do have some criteria, we do have some mechanisms and methodologies. We have the great trinity. We have proposition, instantiation, and deduction, or proposition, instantiation, variation/deviation. We propose an idea and a set of circumstances in which we can test this idea. We instantiate, we create those circumstances and the necessary executions which provide the context originally defined in our proposition, and we then derive, deviate, or deduce as necessary based on the results of that instantiation. We see the problem here, yes? We see the problem with using this methodology and trying to determine the validity of the existence of God. At proposition, we require some specific degree of knowledge. A knowledge which is ultimately, as we are dealing with that which is unknown, an imposition on the process. Hypothesis is to impose a speculation regarding what one anticipates finding. The real problem comes into the instantiation. At instantiation, we require adequate control over the circumstances in order to possibly reveal or exposit our originally proposed idea. At that point, we require control over the subject, at least to some degree. When we are talking about God, when we are talking about any theistic concept, not even something so specific as the Judeo-Christian Abrahamic concept of God, but any theistic concept, we are dealing fundamentally with that which we cannot control. Obviously, this applies to God, but it also applies to things like the meaning of language, the capacity to communicate, verify, and exchange ideas, the Platonic nous, if you will. These are things which are definitively not within our power to control. Certainly not in sufficient degree to include, exclude, or specifically determine the ways in which they manifest in our controlled experimental environment. So, first, let's stop abusing the word proof, please.